The year was 2043, and the world had changed. Borders had been redrawn, alliances shattered, and war had become an inevitable reality. The conflict between the Northern Federation and the Eastern Dominion had been brewing for years, but no one expected it to escalate so quickly. In the heart of winter, amidst the snow-covered valleys of Black Ridge, the first shot was fired. Captain Daniel Voss, a hardened soldier of the Northern Federation, stood at the edge of a frozen trench, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. His unit, the 107th Winter Battalion, had been stationed here for weeks, waiting for the inevitable. The radio crackled. Enemy forces approaching from the east. Brace for impact. Within moments, the valley erupted in fire. Artillery shells rained down, shaking the earth as explosions sent snow and debris flying. The enemy had arrived. Positions, Voss shouted, gripping his rifle as his men scrambled behind barricades. The battle had begun. The Eastern Dominion forces swarmed the battlefield like a relentless tide. Their soldiers, clad in white winter camouflage, moved swiftly through the storm, rifles flashing in the dim light. The Federation's machine guns roared. Screams echoed through the icy wasteland as bodies fell, staining the snow crimson. But the enemy was well prepared. Drones soared overhead, dropping precision bombs onto the trenches, sending men flying. Tanks rolled forward. Voss ducked as a mortar shell exploded nearby, the blast knocking him to the ground. His ears rang, and for a moment, the world was silent. Then through the smoke, he saw them, the Dominion shock troopers, advancing fast. "Hold the line," he bellowed, gripping his rifle and opening fire. The enemy pushed hard, but the Federation forces fought with everything they had. The battle raged for hours, neither side giving an inch. Then came the cold. As night fell, the temperature plummeted. Weapons froze, men shivered, and the dead lay stiff in the snow. But the war did not stop. By dawn, the battlefield was littered with bodies, but neither side had won. The fight had only begun. Voss and his surviving men regrouped in the ruined remains of an old farmhouse, trying to recover. He looked around at his soldiers, faces weary, eyes hollow. One of his youngest soldiers, Private Logan, sat by the fire, clutching a letter. "Who's it from?" Voss asked, sitting beside him. "My sister," Logan murmured. "She doesn't even know I'm here." Voss sighed. He had seen this too many times. Young men, barely old enough to shave, thrown into a war that cared nothing for them. "War takes everything from us," Voss said. "But we fight so others don't have to." Outside, the wind howled. They didn't know it yet, but the next battle would be their hardest. The Dominion forces had regrouped. This time, they were sending everything they had. The Federation's last line of defense was a fortified ridge overlooking the valley. If they lost this position, the entire northern front would collapse. The enemy attacked at dawn. Artillery fire lit up the sky. Explosions rocked the ridge as Voss and his men fought desperately. The enemy came in waves, tanks, drones, foot soldiers. The snow was no longer white. It was red with the blood of the fallen. Voss fought like a man possessed, his rifle never pausing. Around him, his men fell one by one. Logan was hit, his body crumpling in the snow. Rage burned in Voss's chest. He would not let them take this ground. "Charge!" he roared, leading the counterattack. With a final, desperate push, they drove the Dominion forces back. The ridge was saved, but at a terrible cost. When the smoke cleared, Voss stood among the wreckage, surrounded by the dead.